Whoosh. Ooh. Hello, boom. Hello Gladys, hello Ashley. Hello everyone else out there. Yeah, welcome to Wednesday Words. It's the 6th of December, isn't it?
Yes, John.
I know, the 6th of December already, 2023. Well, I've got the Australian Bush Poets Association Christmas edition here, the 2023, and we've got a great write-up in there, but let's begin by, oh look, Gabriel's out the door right now. Let's begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of Northern land on which we broadcast tonight and perform, the Banbai, Kamilaroi people, and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. Alright, T.O. So the write-up by Tom McElveen in the Australian Bush Poets Association magazine. I'll read that out to you. The ABPA New South Wales Championships in Guyra over the weekend of the 18th and 19th of November was a resounding success. Poets came from not only New South Wales but far afield as Northern Queensland, Southern Victoria to compete for the coveted inaugural Poet on the Mountain trophy and title. It was a truly memorable gathering of the bards and a pilgrimage of the likes of which Guyra had never witnessed before. Even the legendary Guyra ghost was amazed. As Molly Meldrum used to say, do yourself a favour. If you haven't been to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame in Guyra, then put it on your next outback itinerary and bucket list. It absolutely is amazing. The proprietor and host, James Thundercloud Warren, that would be yours truly, is the absolute talking epitome of a poet on a mission. Yeah, I sure am. He lives and breathes poetry, this is very true, and is a wonderful ambassador for our beloved craft. Thank you very much, Tom. He has established a museum and collection of poetry books, artefacts, memorabilia that is second to none, and it's the perfect venue for a performance competition in an old heritage theatre, complete with raised stage, upper wings, contestants, judges and audience catered for by, yes, James's in-house cafe, coffee bar, also with barbecue, breakfast and lunch available on site, well-attended performance writing workshops run on Thursday, Friday by Ray, Essery, Bill Kearns, Robin Sykes and of course Tom McElveen. Thanks to the diligence of our wonderful administrators, timekeepers, Susan Ashton, Mary O'Brien, or Mary Gray actually, and others, all run as smoothly as clockwork. Mornings began with the Poets' Breakfast walk-ups and traditional 1-minute poetry competition. And Debbie, which was won by Debbie Merriman, who was in fine form and relishing, Saturday night, the Rhymers Variety Show, hosted by Tom and Susan, was to an appreciative audience, included musical interludes and performances between the three judges. Alright, it just goes on then to talk about the winners of the competition, which we all know anyway, they're all available on the website, and a few poets there, and pictures of the poets. So yeah, that's big shout out to the New South Wales Bush Poets Association. And if you want to join, membership's available now. You just go to the website. It's $48 a year to join the Australian Bush Poets Association, and it means that you can get discounts into competitions and stuff like that. So that's all pretty cool as well. The next one that's coming up is the Victorian Bush Poetry Championships in 2024. So the Victorian Bush Poetry Championship returns at Corryong for the Man from Snowy River Bush Festival. So that will be pretty cool with over $3,500 worth of prizes up there in Corryong in April 11th to the 14th, next year. All right. As well as that, there's a heap of regular events on, and if you are a member of the Australian Bush Poets Association, you can see the events in the back. But also, that's all available on the website for free. So if you just go to www.abpa.org.au, you'll find everything you'll need to know about bush poetry, including how to write it, how to perform it. There's competition information, membership information about performing bush poets that you can hire and get to you to come and perform for you, just like yours truly, the Gyro Poets here. Now, and while I've got the Gyro Poets here, we have actually been, the Gyro Poets have been invited to do a show in Armidale at Gordon Cope's new place. So, so we'll consider that. We'll talk about that more later on. Now, my other latest passion, this will actually deep dive of learning, is on Henry Lawson, this gentleman here, born in 1867, passed away in 1922. Didn't start writing until, 87, so till he was 20, but then by the time he was 21, people were worried, oh, has he done his best work, and is he going to run out of good stuff to write? Obviously not. Now, I'm just going to begin with that actually. So some early stuff. Well, last night on Chilling Tuesday, I did 1891, 1892. And I'm going to do two tonight. The first one is a Derry on a Cove. The second one's Constable McCarthy's investigation. The first one, a Derry on a Cove, is like a Derry in... I'll give you some background on the language. A Derry is when you've got a beef with someone and you're picking on them all the time. This particular one is about a man standing in the dock at the court, pleading his case to the judge about how the policeman just has a thing for him and is persecuting him. But it did appear in verses, popular and humorous. 'Twas in the felon's dock he stood, his eyes were black and blue. His voice with grief was broken, and his nose was broken too. He muttered as that broken nose he wiped upon his cap. It's awful when the police has got a Derry on a chap. I'm an honest working cove, as any bloke can see. It's just because the police has got a Derry, sir, on me. Oh yes, the legal gents can grin. I say it ain't no joke. It's cruel when the police has got a Derry on a bloke. Why don't I go to work? He said. He muttered, why don't you? Your Honour knows as well as me there ain't no work to do. And when I try to find a job, I'm shattered by a trap. It's awful when the police has got a Derry on a chap. I sighed and shed a tearlet for that noble nature marred. But the bench was rough on him and gave him 6 months hard. He said, beyond the grave, you'll cop it hot, by Jove. There ain't no angel police to get a Derry on a cove. Interesting. And the next one I hadn't read before tonight. I read it in preparation. It's really interesting. It's the very last line is almost prophetic. And you'll get it when I get to it. This is called Constable McCarty's Investigations. And I will just get a drink of water so I can wet my whistle.
And whistle you wet.
It's a much longer poem, this one, than the last one. But it's got a bit more of a faster rhythm cadence. Constable McCarty's Investigations. Most unpleasantly adjacent to the haunts of lower orders stood a terrace in the city when the current year began, and a notice indicated there were vacancy for boarders in the middle house and lodgings for a single gentleman. Now, a singular observer could have seen but few attractions, whether in the house or missus, or the notice on the street. But at last there came a lodger whose appearances and actions puzzled Constable McCarthy, the policeman on the beat. He, the single gent, was wasted almost to emancipation, and his features were the palest that McCarty ever saw. And these indications pointing to a past of dissipation greatly strengthened the suspicions of the agent of the law. He, the lodger, hang the pronoun, seemed to like the stormy weather, when the elements in battle kept it up a little late. Yet he'd wander in the moonlight when the stars were close together, taking ghostly consolation in a visionary state. He would walk the streets at midnight when the Storm King raised his banner, walk without his old umbrella, wave his arms above his head, or he'd fold them tight and mutter in a wild, disjointed manner, while the town was wrapped in slumber, and he should have been in bed, said the constable on duty. Sure, I wonder what his trade is, and the constable would watch him from the shadow of a wall. But he never picked a pocket, and he never accosted ladies, and the constable was puzzled what to make of him at all. Now, McCarty had arrested more than one notorious dodger. He had heard of men afflicted with the strangest kind of fads, but he couldn't fix the station or the business of the lodger who at times would chum with cages and at other times with cads. And the constable would often stand and wonder how the gory shoal the stranger got his living, for he loafed the time away. And he often sought a hillock when the sun went down in glory, just as if he was a mourner at the burial of the day. Mac had noticed that the lodger did a mighty lot of smoking, and could stow away along and never winking so he could. And McCarty once at midnight came upon the lodger poking round about suspicious alleys where the common houses stood. Yet the constable had seen him in a class above suspicion, seen him welcomed with effusion by a dozen Tony gents, seen him driving in the buggy of a rising politician through the gateway of a member's Tony private residence. and the constable, off duty, had observed the lodger slipping down a lane to where the river opened to the ocean wide, where he'd stand for hours gazing at the distant anchored shipping. But he never took his coat off, so it wasn't suicide. For the constable had noticed that a man who's filled with loathing for his selfish fellow creatures and the evil things that be, will for some mysterious reason shed a portion of his clothing ere he takes his first and final plunge into eternity. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? And McCarthy, once at midnight, it said to his abasement, left his beaten, climbed a railing of considerable height, just to watch the lodger's shadow on the curtain of his casement while the room was lighted in the listening hours of the night. Now, at first the shadow hinted that the substance sat inditing. Now it indicated toothache or a headache, and again, 'twould exaggerate the gestures of a dipsomaniac fighting those original conceptions of a whiskey-sodden brain. Then the constable, retreating, scratched his head and muttered, "Sorrow, one of me can understand it, but I'll keep me eye on him. Or if he was up to mischief, he'd be sure to douse the glim." But McCarthy wasn't easy, for he had a vague suspicion that a scheme was being plotted, and he thought the matter down till his mind was pretty certain that the business was sedition, and the man in league with others sought to overthrow the crown. But in spite of observation, Mac received no information and was forced to stay inactive, being puzzled for a charge. That the lodger was a madman seemed the only explanation, though the house would scarcely harbour such a lunatic at large. His appearance failed to warrant apprehension as a vagrant, though 'twas getting very shabby, as the constable could see. But McCarthy, in the meantime, hoped to catch him in a flagrant breach of peace or the intention to commit a felony. For digression there is leisure, and it is the writer's pleasure just to pause a while and ponder on a painful legal fact, being forced to say in sorrow and a line of doubtful measure that there's nothing so elastic as the cruel vagrant act. Now, McCarthy knew his duty and was brave as any lion, and he dreaded being landed in an influential bog, and the chances he would be if the man he had his eye on was a person of importance who was travelling in Cove. Want of sleep and over-worry seemed to tell upon McCarthy. He was thirsty more than ever, but his appetite resigned. He was previously reckoned as the jolly chap and hearty, but the mystery was lying like a mountain on his mind. Though he tried his best, he couldn't get a hold upon the lodger, for the latter's antecedents were known to the police. They considered that the devil was a dark and artful dodger who was scheming under cover for the downfall of the peace. 'Twas a simple explanation, though McCarthy didn't know it, which, with half his penetration, he might easily have seen. For the object of his dangerous suspicions was a poet who was not so widely famous as he thought he should have been. And the constable grew thinner, till one morning little Draman, of the sort of revelation that was leaping from its sheath, he alighted on some verses in the columns of the Freeman with the Christian name and surname of the lodger underneath. Now, McCarthy and the poet are as brother is to brother, or at least as brothers should be, and they very often meet on the lonely block at midnight, and they wink at one another, disappearing down the byway of a shanty in the street. And the poet's name, you're asking? Well, the ground is very tender. You must wait until the public put the guilt upon the name, till a glorious sorrow drowning and perhaps a final bender heralds his triumphant entrance to the thunder halls of fame. I told you he was a prophet.
Yeah.
The thunder is triumphant entrance to the thunder halls of fame, and here he is. Yeah. He definitely, I mean, the irony of that, I'm just reading through it and I get to that last line in my practice and I'm like, well, that's synchronistic, isn't it? Interesting. Well, Ashley, would you like to come on up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I should hurry. It's a world of hurry or tarry or, well, tarry is the opposite of hurry. Lawson, yes, one of the great pleasures of my dear friend Dr. Sharkey's life, that he went down to the Quay where Lawson and Brennan and a lot of the poets used to drink beer and then pretend poet-size and then drink beer. And there was an elderly fellow there they'd arranged for Michael to meet, and he talked about regularly being on Henry's shoulders, piggybacking around the quay. And he said, oh, I've waited for many, many years to meet you, Michael, and talk about Henry. And then I think he died, the boy who'd been on Lawson's piggybacking back, I think he died next day. It was very interesting. And Michael was very thrilled to meet him. Well, what would we be without threes? Hypothesis, implication, parameter, plastic, soon to come to us from gas and oil and gas off the beach. I was very intrigued before I arrived tonight. I sat in on my iPad amongst the beautiful gardens down towards the railway line in kindergarten here. I listened to a lecture from Dmitry Orlov about this situation in Western Asia. And he said that there's every possibility that the Jewish people of that world will go to the Jewish state that Stalin set up on the Chinese border, that is still there, talking of synchronicity and destiny, and is about the size of Israel, and is on the border of the powerhouse of the Chinese economy. And he said, and he's a knowledgeable fellow, he said there is a chance that Israel will transport itself to the Jewish autonomous region set up in 1933 or something on that border.
Birobijan.
Yeah, and I was really quite, well, here am I waxing lyrical about it. And he also was asked about Argentina, because I've got family and friends connected with that country, and he made the point, he said, oh gosh, they just need a governor, because again and again and again in history, You know, like countries are like people, I suppose, to some extent. They're hopeless in governing themselves, and they need a governor and spend their time tangoing and playing football. And he was quite serious, actually. He said, because this latest outburst with Millers, or whatever his name is transmogrifying. Well, as I sat with the garden, I wrote a poem, and this is it. Fresh as a bee may be. Buzzing by the bees were there, choosing here, why there, to garner up the pollen flow. I know the flower, the choreographed, cupping petals shower, point to point, kiss to kiss, makes the flower, we flower just so, that flowers within. And as I finished, I thought of John Shaw Nielsen and moods. My dad loved the word moods. Well, I've been thinking about Nettie Palmer's journal 14 years. It's something all Australians should read and be tackled by, I think. So another one I wrote just sitting at the table. A bit different to a ditty like point to point, kiss to kiss, makes the flowers we flower just so that flowers within. The other side of me, I suppose, this one. Where is sovereignty to be found? In the settler colony of Australia. Where is the column balanced for profit loss in the head offices of London and New York? Where are the dance steps of our colonial marionette to be found? Or are we limbs akimbo, knotted around by somewhere once leading strings? In the settler colony, are we cringing before a shattering mirror? Sovereignty to be found. That is the great question before our continent and perhaps nation. Now, I'm going to finish with a picture. If I go up towards the camera, will the picture come up really close, up the eyeballs of our auditors?
A bit closer.
A bit closer.
Yeah.
This is a portrait of James Warren.
A suburb.
As it comes up clearly,
Yeah.
that's James looking at you without a smile. Now, I think that many a truth is spoken in jest. And a poet from that world wrote this, and I only just discovered it, and I was a bit amazed by it, actually. No, I've lost the one I want. I'll have a dig around in a moment after these. Wynyard Sailor. I must say, I've known this poem in my blood and bone. Wynyard Sailor by Ray Matthew, who's a great... James is an aficionado of Mr. Matthew, I think. Sailor, we all stare at you, not because we are laughing, nor that we envy the bottle on your hip. Beer, as we know, should be cold, and that girl with her grip monkey tight in your pocket, better the blondes that grow old. Sailor, sailor, we all stare at you, not because we are laughing, although your wide trousers go flippity-flap, we have worn clothes as odd, and if your hat makes a sailor suit boy of you, ooh, they say it's the young who are God. Sailor, we all stare at you because you are mystery. One who has walked on the dark green while we were afraid to be drowned. One who has been with the seas of great silence and now touches ground. Sailor, we all stare at you because death has been under you. Days have been seas, You have cast off from land, now you've no home, while we who have manned this old coffin earth will never face death, having known. Yes, made me think of Joseph Conrad, who always warned that the sea is never to be having its back turned upon you, and you should never turn your back upon it. Now, the poem I can't find. If you'll bear with me just a couple of seconds, I'll look it up in the Index of Poets and Translators. It was written by my friend, really. He was my friend in a curious sort of way, though we only met for an hour and a half, but we talked all of that 80 minutes. Well, I wanted to do that tonight because it involved some singing, but I can't seem to find it, which puzzles me because I put a marker in. I'll finish with something from Aboriginal parlance that was put into English, and it struck me how the timelessness of it comes across. In our language, we have this subject-predicate of this demarcation between the subject and the predicate. The light flashed. But in many languages, flashes the light in one expostulation. And this translation captures something of that timelessness, palimpsestic, flicker-flacker of images across a timeless landscape that is always in Australian Aboriginal consciousness. The lightning snakes. Gosh, I used to sit in the RSL at Lightning Ridge, look across at the lightning on the border over at Mungandai and feel this poem, I suppose. The lightning snakes. The tongues of the lightning snakes flicker and twist one to the other. They flash across the foliage of the cabbage palms. Lightning flashes through the clouds with the flickering tongue of the snake. It is always there at the wide expanse of water, at the place of the sacred tree. All over the sky their tongues flicker, above the place of the rising clouds, the place of the standing clouds. All over the sky, tongues flickering and twisting. They are always there at the camp of the wide expanse of water. All over the sky, their tongues flicker, at the place of the two sisters, the place of the Wawalak. Lightning flashes through the clouds, flash of the lightning snake. Its blinding flash lights up the cabbage palm foliage, gleams on the cabbage palms and on the shining leaves. Well, I went to sing that song by my mate another time. Couldn't find it. I leave tonight with a heavy heart. I'm ashamed that my country voted against all the world, with the United States, Israel, Canada and England, against the removal of the illegal control of the Golden Heights by Israel. And I would observe that New Zealand had the perspicacity and wisdom not to vote against all of the world.
Let me just readjust the mic height.
Oh, England too, there were 5 countries, and there were these little islands that voted that way, against the whole world.
Well, one thing I do need to mention is, and apologise to our followers, there was no Wednesday Words last week because I was crook. I got a cold, I had a sniffly nose and I was all blocked up and stuff, and I didn't want to share it about with anyone, so I called it off. So, yes, out of nearly 120 episodes of Wednesday Words now on Facebook. That's how many we've got. So, on YouTube, I mean. So that's That's a lot of hours of poetry. All right, well, on Monday, I was coming back from Tamworth and I stopped at Burnett's Books in Uralla and I got another copy of the 1888 book, but also this one, Australian Song, which was given to somebody as a gift in 1913. However, most of the poets in here, that doesn't look like there's anything post about 1890. I've chosen one because it's coming up to Christmas. And this is called Christmas Guests. The poet, though, and I think this is a little bit funny in itself, her name was, wrote under the pseudonym Lindsay Duncan. So Lindsay is a man's name quite often, but was actually, her real name was Mrs. T.C. Cloud, so from South Australia. This is called Christmas Guests, and it appeared in an Adelaide newspaper. There's no biographical information here for Mrs. Cloud either. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Christmas Guests by Lindsay Duncan. The loneliest night of all the lonely year, the sick man murmured with a weary moan, and I shall spend without a creature near another dreary Christmas tide alone. A wooden shanty, common, rough and bare, rude sheltered offered to a suffering man, its door flung open to the warm night air, courting in vain a breeze to check his fan. A man well on in years, deep-lined and grey, his brow and those scant locks which o'er it hung, one who had lost, he had been heard to say, all that he had lived for while he was still young. A world-worn wanderer on the face of the earth, whom death and sorrow in an evil time had driven from the country of his birth to lonely labour in an austral clime, where toiling without heart to keep alive a life he did not cherish, he had failed, as hopeless toilers fail amid those who strive for sorry life alone, his gains avail. Half dressed and flung upon his restless bed, he burning-eyed gazed out upon the night, gazed from the glowing darkness overhead to where the distant township's lamps shone bright. Full many kindly souls, he muttered low, feasting and laughing on this Christmas Eve, did they my dire extremity but know, would gladly seek my sufferings to relieve. And who am I to wrap me in my pride, scorning to ask what would be freely given? Yet no, I cannot beg, he feebly cried. Help to be help for me must come from heaven. And as he spoke high in the vast dark blue, a meteor loosened from its viewless ties, across the star-flowered fields of ether flew, like some grand fire-winged bird of paradise. Its trailing lustre shared a translucent gleam upon two figures at the open door, whose faces brightened with a tender beam the lonely hut that was so dim before. A woman and child, he was distraught, that neither fear nor wonder held him bound to welcome beings who, his reason taught, had slept for 20 years in English ground. Why should he fear them? Were they not his own? The wife and child with whom his heart had died? What wonder if, when he was sick and lone, they left their heaven for service at his side? Hand in hand they crossed his threshold now, smiling upon their loved one as they came. They spoke no word, but kissed his pain-dewed brow, and coolness fell upon his fevered frame. How 'twas he knew not, but within a space that seemed no longer than a moment's flight, a happy change had come upon the place, and all around him streamed a soft, clear light. The child was hanging garlands everywhere, familiar wreaths of holly's glossy green, of laurel and bay, while here and there gleamed marvellous unknown blooms of snowy sheen. The mother spread the table for a feast, as though resuming old sweet household care, and he, in whom all sense and pain had ceased, was gently led this wondrous meal to share. What was his fare that eve of Christmas morn? He cannot tell us, and he only could. But if 'twere not a dream of weakness born, he, for the first time, tasted angels' food. Then, smiling still, they held his feeble hands and sweetly raised that old, old hymn of praise that echoes on through wildest sundered lands in Christian hearts of all earthly Christmas days. Come all ye faithful, were they calling him, bidding him to seek of heavenly Bethlehem? He smiled in answer as his eyes grew dim, and strove to rise that he might follow them. Joyful and triumphant, such harmonies thrilled through the humble hut as human ear, upheld, helped by angel teachers from the skies, has never heard, may never hope to hear. Grandly it rose and swelled, that Christmas song. Surely all choirs of heaven joined the strain, that mighty stream of praise that bore along upon its flood a being freed from pain. When his next neighbours on Christmas Day some friendly impulse to his shanty led, calm, placid, upon his bed he lay. A smile was on his face, and he was dead. Yeah. So Lindsay Duncan, visited by the ghost of his wife and child before he passed on. All right, Gabriel.
No, I'm right, mate. I'm not doing any tonight. You're yes, you go in.
Can I do the song I was going to do?
Sure. Come on up.
I wanted to do it tonight. I actually had put the sticker in the right place, but when you get to 73, you start looking at the left side and you don't quickly go over to the right side.
Really?
And, I did have it in the right spot, but I kept looking at Ray Matthews thinking, no, that's not where I put it. Anyway, my mate Bruce Dorr wrote this testimonials, and in brackets, a ballad for the subliminal age. And I sat there and looked up subliminal on the computer, and it means that which happens to us and we're not aware of it happening, though it happens in our psychic domain. Perhaps there's a physical equivalent too. Many of us are conceived and come into the world with a subliminal pump of biological energy. So here's the poem, Testimonials. A ballad for the subliminal age. A man lay in a car smash down in George Street. As I passed by, his voice rose rather high. He was lighting a cigarette with a tow truck blowtorch, and in between deep puffs I heard him cry, "It's the special filter tip that makes the difference. It's menthol blend that soothes the sorest throat. It's fine gold pack for which you pay no extra. It's the smoke top men prefer on plane or boat." As I walked down a back street that same evening, I saw a house on fire. A crowd looked on. A fireman staggered from the blazing wreckage, an old lady in his arms, then sang this song. "It's the special filter tip that makes the difference. It's menthol blend that soothes the sorest throat. It's a fine gold pack for which you pay no extra. Smoke top men prefer on plane or boat." The Amoco oil refineries were exploding. As I approached, a man flew through the air, and a guard on duty at the main gate murmured, "There goes one full-time smoker, who will swear." It's the special filter tip that makes the difference. It's the menthol blend that soothes the sorest throat. The fine gold pack for which you pay no extra. The smoke-top men prefer on plane or boat. Thank you, Mr. Law.
Well, thanks, Ashley. Very much. Yeah.
That's sardonic. Puff, 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 puff.
Well, yeah, because I've been 2 weeks now without poetry. I didn't do any of my last week. I've actually got a few to do for you tonight, so because I have written some. This was written on the 26th of November. I was celebrating actually the beautiful cherries that are little tart cherries that are growing on the tree outside the front of the neighbourhood centre and also the police station. You can just reach up and eat them straight off the branch. They're beautiful.
Oh, you should have told me I would have come up.
Yeah, well, they're still there. The morning might be cold. It's 11 degrees, the wind blows and the sky is grey. But colours of my Christmas tree are bright and bold. Breakfast was tart cherries eaten from a branch. Life is more than okay. Kale, broccoli, mint, more, banana, pear, peach, grateful. Reflecting on how my life is fortunate. Put together a box of books and toys to donate. That was 26th there. The day after I'd done my Christmas window, got a whole lot of cherries and yeah, as it is. And then the 27th of November, wow, the 9-year anniversary of the roof blowing off the house in Brisbane where I lived, which sent me on a couple of days later I decided to buy my bus. Went travelling, collecting books, giving them away, ended up in Nimbin, ended up writing lots of poetry, ended up here. So I wrote a little thank you, a little bit about that. Big thank you to all the people that have stuck through me by the way, from everyone from Andrew Edwards to my parents, my sons, to Gladys and everyone here, the people in Nimbin that supported me, the people that supported me when I was in my bus, and for the last 9 years it's been one incredible ride. 27th of November. 9 years ago today the roof blew off, but that loss was a good chance for a change. So I bought a double-decker bus and I went off on a journey, and it has been very strange. Someone told me they had a dream one night. The octopus said I have seahorse medicine. Just after that, poetry. I began to write. Poetry for children, surreal, political and obscene. I collected books and gave them away, and then tragedy struck one morning in Nimbin. A young man I met OD'd and died one day. No matter how I tried, I couldn't resuscitate him. So, I wrote about love and wrote about last life, death, the end of prohibition. Ran a cafe in Newman just to earn a crust. Performed poetry to anyone who'd listen. In 2020, I found an empty theatre in Gyra and opened the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. At the beginning of COVID, as people began to die, I'm Thundercloud, and Mum calls me James.
That's an interesting piece of writing.
A little bit of my story. Yeah, Gabriel, come on up, welcome.
It's shocking when you lose your favourite umbrella.
Oh, look, I thought
It's traumatic to lose it.
when the roof blows off, I walked up and the boys were there. Dad, the roof blew off. Oh, well, that's a good chance for change. That's all I could say.
There were 5 things I wanted to share with you. I wasn't sure what order to do them in, but then Ashley did his very last thing that happened to be about cigarettes. And what are the chances of that? And this has happened to me 3 times now at this place, so there's something magic here, people. So this is a sestina, which means that each of the last words of each line repeat in the following stanzas, but in a different order. And that means that the first stanza, it's very easy to see what's being said, but then as you try and force the words into their places, it gets a tiny little bit disjointed. But I'm trying to create a mood, and it follows very well on from Ashley's jingles. Here we go. Cigarette Sestina. Once upon their camels cool, young friends enjoyed a smoke. The company that tastes the flavour, the thrill of subverting parents' rule. Undreamt, unborn was woke, a calming treat to savour. Winston had the densest smoke. Camel had the flavour. Disc Blur won the prize for cool. 555s were for the almost woke and for Burmese cops to savour. Marlborough did the market rule. Mild, fresh, calming, friendly flavour. Take in with every smoke. No other way to look so cool. No better smell to savour. Alone with a strand was almost woke. In films, the cigarettes ruled. Oh, let me have another smoke. Oh, let me join the cool. Oh, show me the high plains of flavour. I don't want to join the woke. Don't fear to break the rule. My saviour stick I'll savour. Consulate tastes gently cool. Camel, subtlest flavour. Woodbines are the workers' smoke. Filter tips become the rule.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, I'm glad. Tar, harder to savour. Cancer caused the birth of woke. So farewell, fresh and full of flavour. Castrate the cancerous cool. Surround no more with barroom smoke. So long, smells to savour. Rogue regulations reign and rule. We writhe beneath the yoke of woke. Epilogue. But we dream of when we'll savour once again tobacco's flavour, when a new benevolent rule restores us to authentic cool, cancelling the roundhead woke for the deep, deep pleasure of a smoke.
Good.
That's what we call a work in progress. Means I'm going to come back and bore you with the next version sometime. And now for something completely different. This is about the 10 Commandments and wondering why in the Catholic and Protestant versions of the Ten Commandments, you're told twice, thou shalt not covet. Once your neighbour's assets and liabilities and property, and then again spouses and people. Whereas all the other things, even murder's only got one. So, this is a bit more radical. Oh, how much we hate them. They have more than you. Some were born to millionaires. Some just jumped the queue. Some waged war on colleagues. Some screwed lady luck. Some are shrewd investors. Some laundered the buck. But nobody deserved it. No one won our votes. No one's rich from merit. No ships once were boats. Money pays for fences to keep you in your place. Corporate expenses never fill your face. We are the great majority, far more poor than rich. Why such a weak minority has stuck us in the ditch? Was dear God bedridden when he said to Moses, jealousy's forbidden, even in small doses? Two of his injunctions say we shall not covet our neighbour's things or spouse. Oh, divine dysfunctions, take that crap and shove it, not fit for man or mouse. We understand what's wrong with treason, disobedience to our Lord and King. That must be the reason that you, God, attach that string. Plutocrats are Pluto's people, licensed by his hell. Enemies of your steeple, Satan's stewards. Well, I could almost love it. Now I see some light. Of course we must not covet those we ought to fight. So, come all ye bombed out Gazans, rise up all you poor, from jungles let loose Tarzans, fight the old class war. Also, got a little bit further off the ground than the other one. And now for something still completely different. About 200 years ago, the idea of what was funny and comic was very, very different from what we think of now. And Thomas Hood was 1880s, regarded as particularly amusing and dry. So,
Was Thomas Hood 1880s?
according to this book,
Wow.
So I think what I'll do with this, so that you don't all fall asleep because of the classical language, is do the first verse and the last verse. This one is called The Logicians. See here two cavillers, would-be unravellers of abstruse theory and questions mystical, in a tete-a-tete and deep debate, wrangling according to forms syllogistical. That's almost Gilbert and Sullivan, isn't it? Glowing and ruddy, the light streams in upon their deep round study, and settles on our bald logician's skull, but still his meditative eye looks dull and muddy. For he is gazing inwardly like Plato, but to the world without, and things about, his eye is blind as that of a potato. And skipping to the last verse. Look how they sit together, two bitter, desperate antagonists, licking each other with their tongues like fists, merely to settle whether this world of ours ever had a beginning, whether created, vaguely undated, or time had any finger in the spinning, when lo, for they are sitting at the basement, a hand like that upon Belshazzar's wall. Let's fall. A written paper through the open casement. Oh, foolish wits, thus runs the document, to twist your brains into a double knot on such a barren question. Be content that there is such a fair and pleasant spot for your enjoyment as this verdant earth. Go eat and drink and give your hearts to mirth, for vainly ye contend before you can decide about its birth, the world will have an end. Yes. And we're just over 200 years after the death of Keats and Shelley. And down in Armadale last night I did a very brief tribute to Keats by Byron, quite dry, but empathetic. And here is the first verse of the tribute from Shelley to Keats at the extreme opposite end of the emotional spectrum. It's the first verse of his relatively famous Adonais. I weep for Adonais, he is dead. Oh, weep for Adonais. Through our tears, thaw not the frost which binds so dear a head. And thou, sad hour, selected from all years to mourn our loss, rouse thy obscure compeers and teach them thine own sorrow. Say, with me died Adonais, till the future dares forget the past. His fate and fame shall be an echo and a light unto eternity. And lastly, another Shelley. Shelley's one of my favourite classical poets, because he's got heart and head. You get both in most of his work, a lot. And he's one where you go back and think, what did he mean by that? You think, A, and then you come back next year, what did he mean by that? And you think B from the exact same words. Hymn to Intellectual Beauty, according to his wife, probably composed in Switzerland in the summer of 1816. The awful shadow of some unseen power floats though unseen among us, visiting this various world with as inconstant wing as summer winds that creep from flower to flower, like moonbeams that behind some piney mountain shower. It visits with an inconstant glance each human heart and countenance, like hues and harmonies of evening, like clouds in starlight widely spread, like memory of music fled, like aught that for its grace may be dear, and yet dearer for its mystery. Spirit of beauty that dost consecrate, with thine own hues all thou dost shine upon, of human thought or form, where art thou gone? Why dost thou pass away and leave our state, this dim vast vale of tears, vacant and desolate? Ask why the sunlight, not forever, weaves rainbows o'er yon mountain river. Why aught should fail and fade that once is shown? Why fear and dream and death and birth cast on the daylight of this earth such gloom? Why man has such a scope for love and hate, despondency and hope? There's plenty more, but I'll do them some other time because it's long. And the night is drawing on. Good, thank you.
Thanks very much, Gabriel. Now I'll move on to what am I going to finish off with for my writing of the last few weeks. A little bit about the wind. The wind blows on you, the wind blows on me, on every being it's true, on every animal, insect and tree. But not on any whales. Blows on, not in the sea. The wind rarely fails to blow because it's free. The wind blows around and circles all the earth. On every piece of ground, winds are the waves' birth. There's wind in the sun, in Fremantle near Perth. Wind surfing is lots of fun and it blows around our girth. That's a little fun little one that I wrote. And then, now, BVOD, this was one like I did last night, broadcast video on demand. BVOD, it's the thing that's replacing TV. It's the device in your hand, it's the Netflix, it's YouTube, it's all of those shorts, it's TikTok. BVOD. They said it would be the death of TV, broadcast video on demand, until people started to wake up that they were being hypnotised and being farmed. At first, nobody was aware of their manipulative tricks, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Shorts, and of course, Netflix. Until one man who was arty held a phone-free dance and a heap of people turned up in psychedelic pants. But like all good parties, this one had to come to an end. And the word went around like wildfire, and everyone told all their friends. So when the next party came, the tickets were sold out, because without phones, through word of mouth, the word got about. The parties grew bigger, better. People had a lot of fun. And at the end of each party, people asked, when's the next one? Well, the word got out, people put down their phones, parties were normalised in pubs, bars and people's homes. And over time, they lost interest in broadcast video on demand. And the dances grew so popular that they were regularly crammed. Yeah, so yeah, let's get out and let's dance and party together. This next one, ooh, no, I'm not going to do that one. That's pretty garbage poetry, actually. I don't always write good stuff. Oh, the limerick. I had a whole lot of limericks that I did. I did a Gyra limerick, which I'll do for you now. The Gyra limerick, it's actually a set of four limericks put together. Now, a limerick is an AA, BBA rhyming structure, so it's 5 lines. The first 2 lines are made of 3 tetrameters, and a tetrameter is a soft, loud meter, and it's a tri-tetrameter, trimeter. And then the first 2 lines and the last line of that, and then the lines 3 and 4 are only 2 of these tetrameters things. So the Gyra limerick. Oh, in Gyra's quaint peaceful space lies a charm you can't easily trace, where the hills meet the sky and the winds whisper by, nature's grace in this serene place, where the clouds paint a canvas so wide, and the valleys in beauty abide, with each sunrise a sight, bringing joy, pure delight, in Gyra, where dreams coincide. The meadows of verdant embrace, where wild flowers bloom with such grace, streams murmur softly near, calming every fear, in Gyra, a magical place. From the mountains to fields that unfold, there's a story that's ancient, untold. Gyra's heart ever strong, in its rhythm a song, a symphony of wonders to behold.
Can you read that again?
Oh, I could, yeah. Would you like to hear
I'd
it?
hear it a second time.
Yeah, okay.
It's funny. Oh, I didn't.
No, that's all right. It's also been put onto a poster. And
I like the
people
wild
think-
one too, but
people
I'd like to hear
bought
it
it.
a second time.
Okay, in Gyra's quaint, peaceful space lies a charm you can't easily trace, where hills meet the sky and the winds whispers by, nature's grace in this serene place, where the clouds paint a canvas so wide, and the valleys in beauty abide, with each sunrise a sight, bringing joy, pure delight, in Gyra, where dreams coincide.
Very nice.
The 2 more. The meadows of verdant embrace, where wild flowers bloom with such grace, streams murmur softly near, calming every fear, in Gyra, a magical place. From the mountains to fields that unfold, there's a story that's ancient, untold. Gyra's heart ever strong, in its rhythm a song, a symphony of wonders to behold.
Yes, the word meadows hits a wrong note with me because it doesn't just my comment. We really don't have meadows.
No, paddocks. Yeah.
But you might find another word. Anyway, that was my
paddocks. Yeah, I get that. No, thank you, my literary friend. You're very right. That is too right. Meadows is just like, good call. Very good call, actually.
And verdant is a little cheesy.
Yeah, I know.
It's got a sort of verdant though. Anyway, yes. Meadows.
It's pretty cheesy.
That's what makes writing interesting. By the by, if you find any really tasty, interesting paragraphs or short parts of Lawson's prose, because you're going through the lot, aren't you?
Yeah.
Read some of. I'd like to hear some of that. What you choose as the gems in prosic style. Is there such a word as prosic style? Prosaic, yeah. Prosaic, yeah. I'd be interested what you pick on.
Because Gyra has got Guy in it, it's easier to think of it as being more masculine and macho. You got it quite feminine and soft and kind there.
It is.
Which maybe it is for all I know. But it all depends who you're talking to, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. One thing I did want to mention, and I think the world needs to know this about the Gyra young children, they're very respectful. I go swimming and in the pool, right? And today's a really hot day and there's heaps of kids in the pool. And I could just grab a lane, like to the side, and just swim up and down, and they just get out of my way. They don't get in my way.
Because you're an adult. I've had that experience of them, and I was about to say the Gyra kids have curiosity and softness. They're wonderful, and
yeah, they are.
They don't get life that easy.
No. Here's something for you, a Thundercloud quote. If you turn on a lamp and put it under a cover, then you will discover that it's still dark. Yep.
Anyway, James, I'm getting out.
All right,
And I
Gladys.
will catch up with you later. I've dropped your cup back as I go.
No worries. All right. Thank
And
you
how
very
are
much
you
for
tonight,
coming
mate?
tonight,
All right?
Gladys.
Yeah, I'm surviving.
You
still,
survived.
yeah.
Well, that's good.
All right. Well, look, I've got
I'll
one.
survive till I hit 80.
One more thought.
Yeah.
This one's about the clouds in the sky. I saw a laughing elephant flying through the sky, chasing a giant mouse eating raspberry pie. It was followed by a witch, after that a ghost, flying on a dish of Vegemite on toast. There was a polar bear, then Santa Claus, floating through the air. I stopped to pause. The sky was blue, the clouds floated by. Saturday afternoon as I admired the sky. Just a little one.
Your cigar-like stuff with animals and people flying through the air is amongst the stuff I like best of yours. It always seems to come off. Always puts me in mind of cigar paintings.
Here's another quote, and this one is actually about two kinds of accounting software, MYOB and Xero. But the way it's written, MYOB is a great accountability program and recommended for everyone. However, I prefer accounting with Xero because that's how many fucks are given.
Isn't it zero with an X?
It is Xero with an X-E-R-O, yeah. Under the carpet lies. Look away, you don't want to see what's under the carpet. God's chosen people lies under the carpet, next to brown paper bags of cash, indiscriminate prejudicial killing, war crimes of child abduction, bombing of hospitals, and imprisoned for social media comments. It's a very big carpet, which covers corporations who test the safety of the products that they sell, Roundup, Malden must, so much swept under the carpet, dust, dirt, prostitution disguised as massage, porn, and the laundry, rusting wind turbines, far from ordinary, lift the corner, sweep, drop the corner, walk away out of sight, out of mind, they say, until hubble bubble, boil and bubble, festering wounds untreated cause trouble. And then one day you just got to call in a professional carpet cleaner under the carpet.
It would have been better if you'd chopped it off before you got onto prostitution, because it was all of it nice, neat theme with class and racial implications that were all coherent and consistent. But then prostitution's in another galaxy from that.
Once you start talking about sex, you're talking about sex. Something
Oh well, then this is the last one of the night. And yeah, so when I was talking to someone today, my dad's 79, and if it wasn't for the wonders of modern medicine, he wouldn't have really probably lived past when he was 44. He had diverticulitis, he had a ruptured bowel, he was bleeding from his bowels. So they managed to cut him open and take a bit of bowel out. As well as that, he's got a pacemaker, a metal shoulder, a metal bit in his leg, and missing a kidney. And so yeah, and he's 79, and he's doing really well, and it's great for him. Him and my mum, they gave me a call today, and they actually donated $500 to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. So thank you very much for that wonderful Christmas present. So yeah. Supporting the poets. Thank you, Mum and Dad. We're missing Sky. She's in. Well, I'm missing Sky. I don't know about you, but
I miss the sky.
Too, yeah.
I thought she was in the sky for a while.
Oh, look! I look up at that sky every day, and I see the blue, and I'm reminded of her eyes.
Interesting character, Sky.
She very much is. So this was written to her. When I go outside and I see the sky, I think of you, your sunny smile and bright eyes of blue. That was one that I just missed, actually. No, there you go. And the last one, though, because so back to Dad, he got diverticulitis, and he put it down to, the doctor put it down to his post-war diet of lots of sugar and cream, and actually very little fibre, lots of bread. And so from when I was about 14...
What, not much potato in his diet?
Oh, look,
that would have given him fibre.
But
anyway.
I don't know. But
Yes.
when I was 14, I started eating fruit. And I've pretty much eaten fruit for breakfast every day of my life, or a smoothie or
So
something
your
like
health's
that.
good,
So I
yeah.
love fruit. I love my fruit.
So
Sky
your health's good.
also loves her fruit. And I'm sitting out the front today, and I've got my beautiful bowl full of summer fruits, and I'm reminded of Charles Harper's poem, A Bowl of Summer Fruit. But here we go. This is for Sky. I love to be sitting here, feeding you my banana. Not all of it, just a piece. Then you could feed me, for our breakfast, a slice of your juicy, fuzzy peach. I'd savour it, crush it, squeeze the juice out slow. Then I would take a large, sweet piece of mango on a spoon, place it to your lips, then taste your juicy melons, and we could both spit cherry pips. Sensual and merry, a handful of raspberries. I'd nip your succulent strawberry. You'd sip the white, sweet juice of lychees, nectarines savoured, pineapple sweet, blood, plums, apricot, Cots and Kiwis, please hurry, I'm hungry, but with you I will taste and eat slow. The sweetest pear is worth the wait until it's ripe to go.
That works well.
Yeah, yeah. If I can just do it without falling in yeah.
Oh, you can't help but do what I'm trying to fake it. I actually think that's half the point. It's all right.
It is, yeah. Of course, it's that metaphor for whatever.
And the missing out comes across through all that, which is good.
The sensualness of it, and that's what I've always really enjoyed about eating fruit. How you've got a bowl of these beautiful different flavours and textures, and they're all sweet and delicious. Yeah.
Well, to rephrase Andrew Marvel,
Yeah.
you've annihilated all that's made to oozy juice from a fruity glade.
Oh,
Because
yes,
he
that's
said,
true.
annihilating all that's made to a green thought in a green shade.
Yeah. All right.
Interesting,
Well,
that. It's a pity you can't show the viewers your little movie from the
look, it'd be
Poets
wonderful.
Weekend, the one about the fruit.
The
Because
bowl
there'd be
of
people,
fruit.
yeah, it's a nice little film there.
Well, that's it for tonight.
Yeah.
So thank you, viewers, for joining us out there in YouTube land. Underneath in the link, you'll see a PayPal donation link, and you're very more than welcome to make a donation if you'd like to down there for our work here and continuing the work with the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame in Gyra.
And Napoleon's worth going to on the big screen, although I hated it.
Yeah, me too.
But I went twice and enjoyed it. But I
It
hated
was
it.
such a great opportunity.